Thank you all for being here. And if you're just joining us, welcome to KINETIC-CON. This is our second Fireside chat of the day called Economic Progress Through Entrepreneurship and the Importance of Funding. Our moderator, Antonio, is the founder and CEO of Fridgio. He previously served as a co-founder of FMX Logistics, a final mile logistics joint venture company, and served as an executive chairman of Broad Range Logistics. Antonio has a BBA in International Business and Finance from Howard and is currently earning an MBA at the MIT Sloan School of Management. Thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Very excited about the conference and already learning a great deal. Okay, there you are.
Hello, hello.
What up, what up, what up?
Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and get started. Pleasure to meet you, Kobie, and pleasure to meet you, James. And I'll start out with a really simple question, kind of high level for both of you. How did you get started in venture capital? Did you get started as an investor? Did you get started as an entrepreneur? Kobie, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so first off, happy Saturday, everyone. Really great to be here, fellowshipping with this entire community. My background, how I got into VC, goes back actually a couple of decades, so it's kind of crazy. I'm dating myself a bit there. I grew up in Boston and spent most of my life on the East Coast. I was an athlete growing up, ran track, and got recruited by a bunch of schools, went to Harvard, and it was at Harvard during the late 90s where a buddy of mine on the track team, who was also on the Jamaican junior national soccer team, had an idea around using the internet to connect soccer players with recruiters. And we honestly just created this concept that really just got tremendous amount of traction and pivoted into being an all-encompassing soccer portal that we raised a couple $1 million in angel capital for while in school. I had no idea what the hell venture capital was, or the fact that us as dumb kids could go out and ask people for money and they would trust us to go out and try to plant that seed and create a harvest. And eventually, as we were going out to raise more money, the whole kind of .com bubble busted, and I got really enamored with this whole industry of venture capital. The fact that someone would be able to come into our office, ask us all these intrusive questions, get to know the inner workings of our business, and then have the choice around whether they partner with us or not, to me was incredibly fascinating. I got obsessed with the field and went on to frankly send physical letters out to every Boston-based VC at the time to find a way in which to really enter into the industry. Honestly, barely anyone replied back. Got a few letters back, people saying like, no, bugger off, get some experience. And eventually I was fortunate enough through one of my now really close friends at the time also was on the track team with me, a guy by the name of Nnamdi Okike, who most recently has formed a fund in New York called 645 Ventures. He joined a firm in New York called Insight Venture Partners straight out of school. And it was through his experience at Insight and House U as a first-year analyst really sharing with me what he was doing. And I had the opportunity to get to meet his, at the time, boss, and we hit it off. And I was able to get my first shot into venture back in 2003. So that's kind of how I got into the field. It was through exposure on a startup I did in college.
That's awesome. James, how about you? How'd you get started?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I've known Kobie for a minute. I didn't know his background went back that far. And my background starts probably around the same time. In 1998, I was a music executive at Columbia Records, was making people famous kind of the old-fashioned way, and ended up building an email newsletter that I sold to a .com in 98. And our first investor was Nicholas Negroponte, who created the MIT New Media Lab, and Fred Wilson, who's a legendary investor. And I came from the record business. I knew nothing about like, oh, someone's going to actually give us money to come up with this idea, and ended up selling it to a company called Urban Box Office. Chairman of our board was a man named Clarence Avant. There were three amazing guys who built this business, and it really, brought me into this world that was pretty foreign to me in terms of the investment side. I grew up in Palo Alto, went to high school in Silicon Valley, so I was no stranger to technology. I grew up writing code, but I went to the record business, and we ended up raising $40 million, and all my music industry friends thought I was wacky and crazy. What's a .com? And it was an incredible journey, a journey full of lots of emotions. I ended up going into advertising, spending a decade in Atlanta, Georgia, building a digital media, agency basically. And at the end of that journey, I sold that business and started bringing venture capitalists to Atlanta to educate my friends in the record business about opportunities, what it would mean to invest in a fund or a business, and really breaking down the nomenclature, which I didn't come from a finance background. I didn't have any of that, and so got really good at both putting Atlanta on my back and centering my fancy friends and celebrity friends, and trying to really democratize the opportunities for them. And then I ended up becoming CEO of a venture studio and kind of early stage fund here in Los Angeles. With my partner, who was then Troy Carter. And when I came to LA, I just realized that, there's probably something, interesting about my network and my background, and where that connects with venture. And it was really, it's been I feel like also a 2-decade journey for me to understand and unpack, where my skill set, where my unique relationships, and where the market is going, and kind of, formed a thesis around an investor around that.
Wow, that's awesome. Both of you all, you both bring a wealth of entrepreneurial experience to the venture capital space, and now sitting on the other side of the table, exercise a unique perspective to add value to, any of the entrepreneurs that you come in contact with, but definitely the entrepreneurs that you decided to invest in. Kobie, can you talk to us a little bit about, some of the entrepreneurial things you're doing in addition to venture capital right now? We know that, Valence is really, Valence is really taking off. And can you talk a little about that?
Yeah. So my day job is I'm a venture capitalist. I'm a partner at Upfront Ventures here in Los Angeles. We are the largest early stage fund, a couple billion in assets under management. And we're investing in our 6th fund, a $400 million fund. Primarily, it's Series A and seed. I spend most of my time in the area of enterprise software and a little bit in consumer investing as well. And community, whether it be community enabling software or communities themselves, are 2 categories that are incredibly exciting to me in terms of where I'm actually deploying Upfront's capital and dollars. But Valence, as you mentioned, it's a platform that, frankly, I wasn't really looking to build a company on the side. I mean, between Upfront and I have 2 boys, one's 5, one's 3, got plenty of things to do and not any free time at all. But it just really came to me a couple of years ago as I was sitting in my office and reflecting on this dynamic that was at play. There were a lot of my portfolio companies, as well as companies that would naturally come to me when they wanted to recruit Black talent. And they would say, like, I want to find an amazing Black engineer, Black salesperson, Black marketer, but I just can't find them. There's no one really out there. And they'd ask me, being maybe their only Black friend or Black person they know, to refer them to someone. And I just hated people saying that there's a pipeline issue, there's no talent out there. And to me, it was like, no, you're just not trying hard enough. You should go out and you just basically tap a network and just tap your network or build a network within the community, you'll find them. And then I was also hearing the same thing with regards to other venture investors saying that there are no Black founders out there. I want to put money behind them, but I can't find them. And they would come to me, being probably one of the only Black investors they knew. And then I'd be shocked they didn't know these other Black investors out there that also are in and tap to this community. They didn't know James. They didn't know so many people that they should know. They're not doing the work. So I realized you could do one of 2 things. You could shame them and just smack them on the top of the head and be like, try harder, or you can actually try to solve the problem. For me, the problem was really rooted in access to the network and transparency around the people who are in the community. So I thought, why wouldn't I just create a beautiful, interactive database of talent and do it in a way where I would present the community through this aspirational lens of superheroes, because I wanted people to realize all the Black excellence that's out there within our community, both people outside of the Black community as well as people within our own community that for some reason or another may not even understand who someone like a Robert Smith is, or a Peggy Alford, or all the amazing people that are going on their journeys to regardless of where they're at in their actual career, and present it in a way where you couldn't miss it. And if you wanted to find that amazing engineer or marketer, it was right in front of your face. And as I was building out this concept, I was getting all this overwhelming feedback on my website that it should, one, be a for-profit business. I had other VCs saying, I want to fund the idea. And then eventually I was like, you know what, well, I'm a VC, I could probably fund my own idea if I want to, and had the privilege around my partners at Upfront seeing it was an amazing opportunity to build something that not only does good in the world, but also could be a very large business. So we incubated it, $1 million of upfront capital, started building out a team, and spent time. James was there really early on in the journey as well, and we went out and we started building, and we started getting firsthand feedback in the market around what we were trying to really bring to this world, which was just this place where, as a Black community, we could come together, form bonds, and build something great that's bigger than ourselves. And launched an alpha, roughly about a year later than that idea that came to us. Initial, call it like 3,000 people came to the platform, all invite only and all organic. And it just started growing and getting momentum organically. And this was a lot while I was just frankly doing the day job as an Upfront. And there was moments where I'll be honest, it was incredibly tiring and stressful how we're balancing both trying to build Valence. It really felt like a calling, a mission in terms of what we could do to bring something like this to the world, where it really is leveraging technology as a vehicle to really help solve the problem. But I feel fortunate right now, kind of fast forward where things are at right now. We have Guy Primus is CEO, really helping lead the charge. We have roughly 15,000 professionals on the platform, networking, building, and we're really trying to create a platform, a space where we as a community can come together and help deconstruct the pathways towards advancement, and whether it be finding your next job, finding your next senior board position, or finding funding to build a company. So I'll shut up there, but that's a little bit of what Valence is. And it's been an incredible journey that we're really honestly first innings on.
Right. So while you're sitting on the investor side of the table, you still can't give up that entrepreneurial spirit. All right. So James, talk to me a little bit about talk to all of us a little bit about your new venture fund and how you're changing the landscape of venture capital.
Yeah, so we have yet to actually launch our formal fund. So all of my investment has been in syndicates and angel, and we certainly have our eyes on a fund. I mean, honestly, my journey is really rooted in making sure that when we do launch a fund, that we are doing something that's different in the market. I don't think the world needs another venture capital fund, but I do think the world needs thoughtful investors and managers who bring a lot to the table. Just like Kobie, I kind of come to the table both being unashamedly Black and being really good at building brand and telling stories. That's been my career. I've built businesses in it. I've understood digital and social. I understand celebrity because I worked in the music business and grew up in the record business. So a lot of what we're doing is really defining the uniqueness around what makes us different and unique. And the other part is just, I find that, I've been calling myself a cap table activist for the past year, making sure that we make sure that we're, on the right cap tables. But part of that is really understanding what value you actually bring, and why one would want you on their cap table. And I think for us as investors, having spent time with, some really great early stage companies, some with some big name venture capital firms as lead investors. It's been really helpful to understand, why I think, our superpower, our dollar is worth, 10x, right? Because we really have honed in on culture. And I think for us, it's been about building a platform around the fund first, gaining credibility, spending time with people like Kobie, spending time with other investors at other big firms. So that when we do launch the fund, it's another fund that actually is additive and not something that's just creating a lot of noise in the market. And so, as much as I've done some great deals, and I found that we're probably punching above our weight in a lot of opportunities. We've gotten allocations and deals, and I'm like, holy shit! Like, how do we even get in this opportunity? A lot of it is rooted in understanding, the value, the experience, the network that I bring to the table. And the second thing is just like being able to play in places that are underestimated. I built a tour called Culture and Code, where I brought VCs and founders to great cities that are not Palo Alto, not Austin. And so for me as an investor, it's about looking in cities that maybe are not in the quote unquote tech hubs, but recognizing that what makes America great, America great again, at least in my estimation, are those cities that are underestimated. So I've spent a lot of time looking for deals, talking to founders, looking at high net worth individuals and even pension funds in places that are not typical in America as well as outside of America. So for us, we've spent the latter part of I would say 4 or 5 years thinking about value as investors, thinking about why it's important for us to be on someone's cap table, and now we're ready to actually launch our first fund.
Oh, that sounds awesome. So, in launching your first fund, as an investor, what special insights could you share with professionals of color about the fundraising process and, how they could better position themselves to become a venture-backed enterprise?
Is that for Kobie or me?
Both of you. You can go first, James, since you were just talking about that.
Yeah. So, I think that it's better to present the opportunity. I feel like I heard someone else say this earlier, but so I might be jacking somebody's lyric for a minute. But it is something that I think about a lot, is like presenting an opportunity versus out there just looking for cash, right? I think for those of us professionals of color, the ability to kind of posture and walk into a room and say, you know what, this is going to go. If you want to be on this train, cool. Deadline is 45 days from now. That's when this round closes. Is a great posture. For us as investors, we're looking to be involved with founders who really know what they're disrupting, why they're disrupting, why they're the most qualified to disrupt that. Why this opportunity is important. So, I find sometimes I'm getting, people are reaching out to me, and I'm sure Kobie gets the same thing from people that just, I don't even know what in my background ever you even thought that I would be, that this is where I fit. So that's one I just find, like, let's make sure you've done the homework around me. And, but I think having the information, having access to, why investors or institutional firms invest the way they do is really important. And that's why Valence is really important. I love that Kobie shouted me out. I loved, the spirit behind Valence and how Kobie landed on that thing. Because I think a lot of the battle is really won in the information game, is really understanding data points behind either investors or why firms are doing what they do. So I think for me, I really want to be Robin Hood. Like, I'm trying to bring all the information that all the relationships I've honed, all the time I've spent with either founders or those individuals who actually deploy capital on a regular basis, and bring that back to my people. And that's always going to be my mission. I'm not the person, I'm not just in the room, I'm making the rooms where things happen. I like to sort of borrow a little bit of Hamilton. A lot of what we do at the Authenticated, which is our network of 350 investors and founders and creatives, I built it 4 years ago, is trying to make sure that we, make sure people are prepared for the dance. And then understanding, who the individuals are in the dance, how the game actually works. Why certain individuals are important on your cap table. And, I think for me, I will make sure that, I, live my life as someone who spends time in the rooms and brings the information back to the homies so that we can all win at this. So, yeah, I think information sharing is really important, but making sure that your posture, making sure that you're prepared for the opportunity is never goes out of style.
Understood. What about you, Kobie? What special insights in your experience can you share with entrepreneurs of color?
Yeah, I'd say a couple general things. One, really be very clear regards to what it is that you exactly need. Venture is a very specific product and is not suited for every founder. Sometimes to get a business to product market fit and to scale, you may not even need venture capital dollars to actually do that. And I try to tell founders, frankly, of all types, to first take a step back and realize what is actually do you need to get to the next milestone journey in your business. And if venture capital is a product that you need, great. Maybe you just need to better formalize your idea and have a real good sense of what you're trying to build, what your purpose is, and why. So I feel like a lot of founders just skip those first two basic fundamental steps, and then they try to start talking to VCs, and that's where things usually fall apart because they really don't know what they want. They actually don't know what they're pitching, and they don't really come across in the best, most credible way to their audience they're talking to. So I'd say focus on that first. And assuming you have that and you realize, okay, I need venture capital, I need X amount of dollars, really know your audience. So like James mentioned a little bit, sometimes like I am shocked by the lack of preparation or research that founders do prior to talking to investors. They'll come with an idea and they'll think that this is something that I would be interested in investing in, where you can pretty clearly see from the past investments I've done, sectors I focus on, stage I focus on investing, that this would either be totally out of the fairway with regards to where to deploy capital, or maybe it'd be dead smack in the middle of the fairway and you didn't even need research with regards to, I know the category cold. So like do your research, know your audience. And then the next thing I'd say is like, be yourself, be transparent and be authentic. The biggest turnoff I have is when a founder comes and I can just tell that they're putting on a show and they're trying to be someone they truly are not. So be unapologetic in who you are as a founder and as an individual, because as you're looking for that partner, this is a partnership and you really want to get to know each other as individuals, because an investor is trusting you with their money. So if they don't know who you are as an individual, and by the way, we meet with thousands and thousands of founders. We can read straight through the BS when someone's trying to pretend like they're something they're not. Like you totally just cut yourself down and limit your potential in getting that conversion on even like a next meeting. So for me, like authenticity, trust, transparency is just of paramount importance when I'm talking to anyone. And then also realize that certain venture investors, depending on their profile, they have returns and exit profiles they're looking for. So for me, we're managing billions of dollars in assets. I have a several $100 million fund. We're looking for businesses that are category defining and have the upside potential to be worth billions and billions and billions of dollars. Not all VCs, not all investors are looking for that similar return profile, but you should be aware going in that some VCs will be very happy with a couple $100 million exit. Some VCs may be happy with like a $50 million exit. And some VCs, if they're not swinging for the fences and able to see a few $1 billion return, it's just like they're going on to the next one. And I do 2 deals a year. So you gotta get a sense that like, there's just a real high bar as when you're talking to some folks to get a conversion. And I just would say any founders are trying to get to be one of those deals amongst sort of all these VCs deploying capital, realize like it just takes what it takes. And definitely the odds are stacked up against the community. I'm not gonna lie about that. There are definitely incredible biases within venture capital in Silicon Valley. I still see them. They frustrate the hell out of me. But for you to get to that milestone and build that business, just realize it takes what it takes. Do your work, do your research, leverage the community, leverage each other. Let's work together with people to actually help each other to get to that next milestone, whether it be raising capital or just getting your product out the door, and we can help build one another. So that's just how I approach this overall category and industry, and just us as a community trying to just really get more exposure to the innovation economy to drive wealth, because that's what we have to do as a people to really just combat some of what we're seeing in terms of inequities in this country. Innovation economy and getting into tech is just something we need to do, and we need to do it together as a people.
Wow, that's powerful. Thank you for those insights. You guys have wonderful insights about these. James, I want to come back to you and talk to you a little bit about your experience on Clubhouse. You're quite the influencer on Clubhouse, over 2 million followers. What would you say to someone similarly situated to yourself that has brought a lot of Black culture and patronage to a platform, but doesn't have a spot on the cap table? What would you say to them?
What I think it goes back to that what I was saying earlier about, understanding our value. I mean, you sort of asked me a lot of questions in one. So I'm gonna
Okay,
try to,
sorry about that.
no, I mean, like, not that you didn't, I wasn't blaming your question. It was just like, I want to chop it up a little bit. Having 2 million followers on Clubhouse or having it doesn't, I mean, I think Clubhouse I've been doing this kind of work for 25 years. I was early on Twitter, and gained a following there. I was using Ustream in 2009 and 10 and live streaming, the DNC with my friend Hill Harper, so I being first to the market on a platform is certainly not new for me. Great that I have 2 million followers. Awesome. And thank you for anybody who follows me. We've been very intentional about, the types of content we're producing on Clubhouse, but we also, in full transparency, we're brought on the platform early to bring other influential people to the platform. And there certainly was an expectation that, that I individually would add some value to the platform. And if there was an opportunity as an investor, as an accredited investor, I think it's important to note that I would get, an opportunity to invest in the platform. So I think it's important that when as these platforms, as the creator economy begins to grow, and more of these are coming. The Clubhouse is not the only one, right? And as we begin to bring our fame and our infamy and our culture and our network and our, to these platforms, that we really understand the value that we bring, that we're able to communicate that value to the founders of these things, and to get in early to say, hey, you know what? I do believe that I'm bringing some value to this table. I do believe that there's an opportunity for us to do more. And it's up to the founder of that platform ultimately to say, hey, I want you to be my advisor. I want you to invest. I certainly think that I'm bullish on Black people. I think we changed the game for everything. There would be no Vine if it wasn't for Atlanta, Georgia, and the creators, straight up, right? But I doubt that any of those young babies I saw doing dances on there had any equity on that cap table, right? There would be half these platforms, as we begin to see, won't exist unless our culture and our contributions are there. So for me, I'm trying to make sure that for the creator economy, and that's a lot of what we're thinking about as our fund, that we represent talent, and whether you're an NFL player or an NBA draft pick or somebody with a dope ass vegan shop in a city, that we are at least positioned to help to build those bridges. Because right now there's certainly, for me as someone who comes from hip hop and from the record business, there certainly is a lot of okay, great, come on here and do your thing. And we're going to leverage network effects and drive our business on your ability to bring the culture to our platform. And we're going to give you a ham sandwich, and a verified badge for that. And so as investors and as advocates and as, my own sort of personal Huey P. Newton platform, I certainly am looking, as we begin to build, relationships with creators and relationships with talent. I want to stand in the gap between what I find is, deep issues with those who are building platforms on the old model, right? And don't understand us as a people and what we bring. And on the other side, making sure that talent gets what they deserve on these platforms. But I think that even the way that we look at creators and how to capitalize. I mean, I'm not a TikTok, like I'm not 25, right? So I'm also someone who has 2 million followers on Clubhouse, and I'm 50 years old and I've been doing this for a while. So I come from with a slightly different set of understanding and experience set. But I want to be able to pass that along to other creators as they begin to think about other platforms that they will affect and that they will change the game. And certainly Clubhouse is one of those places where, if not for Black folks and Black contributions, it would not be valued at $1 billion. Straight up, straight up, straight up. And so there's more of those coming. The question then becomes, how do we make sure that we protect our contributions and our additive value?
And maybe I can kind of pile on a little bit here. The way I think about it, whether it's the creator economy, platforms like Clubhouse, or it's the next enterprise software company that's innovating something in and around, pick your favorite sector, vertical, maybe it's plumbing software like ServiceTitan. We as a community, if we're not a part of all these companies, from board representation, ownership, to the workforce, there's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
We already can see the stats with regards to the wealth gap that exists between the Black community and the rest of this country, and it's staggering. And if you see the amount of wealth that's being created in tech generally, the pace at which multi-billion-dollar companies and IPOs that are now getting to like the $50-100 billion at a record sort of paces, just being on those cap tables, if we're not there in any manner, and that's either getting options as being either early employees or again, being actually early on investors. And early on investors, you can be at the Series C. If you get in at the Series C of a company of value, call it like $500 million to $1 billion, if that company exits for $50 to $100 billion, do the math. It's a lot of money. So my biggest thing is we need to find a way in which we start changing the narrative and creating a new model with regards to how Silicon Valley and technology works. And what at least we're trying to do with Valence is leverage the network, leverage the community we have here with regards to people that can be in the workforce, key talent that could be hired by these companies, to individuals that have enough disposable income to be on the cap tables, to create a new way in which we scale these companies. So Bevy is an example of a business that we started talking about recently. That's one of my other portfolio companies, where it's a high growth business in the virtual event software space. I don't think we're using Bevy right now, but maybe we should in the next one. But it allows individuals to be together in a virtual setting, similarly are right now, and it's just exploding. And as the CEO reflected on an issue in his company about a year ago, he realized that not one of my employees is Black. And I was like, yeah, Derek, it's a problem. Like, we need to actually find a way to diversify our company and our workforce, especially if we want to be a community platform. If our company doesn't look like the communities that we serve and we actually bring together, we have a fundamental issue. So this is an example where then fast forward, the CEO took it personally. He rolled up his sleeves and he actually focused on solving the problem. The problem was that I need to make sure that I have appropriate representation in my company. Fast forward to where right now, we have close to 20% of the workforce now Black. So people try to say like, oh, it's just hard to actually find Black people, or I'll just get to it, but they don't actually have the key KPI with regards to how they're driving growth in their business. Bevy did that, but he didn't stop the drift right there. He realized that actually getting key individuals on his cap table made sense. We just raised a $40 million round, Series C, led by Excel, where we had 30 individual Black investors come on the cap table and invest. But they're not only going to be, they're not silent investors. They're active, they're family. They're actually now going to work. They're helping Derek and the team recruit key talent, find key partnership, introducing them to key customers. Like, we just totally transform the way this business is going to be run. And if we actually succeed in creating a multi-billion-dollar company, the amount of wealth they're actually creating for not only the people that actually invested in this round, but people that are actually working on this company will be substantial. But for me, what is more important is that for us talking about this example, we're getting inundated with other companies that want to do the same thing. So we need to change the narrative around that our community has superpowers across all facets of business, and that the new way of building businesses needs to be one that actually reflects incorporates the Black community in a way that hasn't been done before, not only because it will help create social progress and wealth in our community, but it's just the right thing to do. The data suggests that you actually will have a more profitable business. The culture of your company will thrive and you will actually have better employee retention. And it's just makes no sense to me that businesses haven't realized this is what we need to do, but we have to start figuring out how to solve this problem. And it goes beyond just some of the categories and sectors that people think that only our community can be helpful and valuable to. We can be helpful to all business, end statement. And I'm excited to get to a period where the businesses of tomorrow, cultural businesses that actually incorporate and reflect the values of what we can bring to the table as a Black community.
I just want to add on to that. First of all, the Bevy cap table play that Kobie did was just incredible. If you haven't seen it, you guys should just Google what recently happened. And I just want to double tap that. And, it's funny, as much as 2 million followers on Clubhouses, whatever, the best thing is that I've been able to, work with the founding team to kind of, to Kobie's point, to, think broader about who they hire, and help them, at least meet some folks as they raised, a shit ton of capital to think about their team differently. And that is the stuff that we can do when we're inside these organizations creating influence. Yeah, we can, obviously fight to be on the cap table and do that kind of work, but also like, when they're hiring CMOs and when they're hiring, executives, like making sure that they hire people and don't give people that excuse to be like, I can't find anybody except for Bozema and she already has a job. That's fucking bullshit. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that to me is one of the, without giving away all the things I've done for Clubhouse, one of the greatest things for anybody when you start to gain influence is leverage your influence in a way where you can help these folks make decisions behind the scenes on the board. I mean, I'm getting tons of calls these days around around folks that, hey, I only know 10 Black people. Can you expand our networks? And then pointing them in direction of Valence and saying, look, there's platforms out there that exist that have tons of opportunities for you to expand, your board seats. That's crazy. So thank you for saying that, Kobie.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we have a few minutes left here. What we want to do is start taking some questions from our audience. Audience members, if you have questions, please post those, and we will present them to our speakers. So Nova Phoenix has a question. She says, "What's personally important to you when choosing to invest in a business?" Kobie, we'll start with you.
Personally important. To me, it's all about the founder. If I don't feel like the founding team has a appropriate moral compass and North Star, and also they're mission driven with regards to how they're building their company, then it's hard for me really to get behind that. To me, I just have to truly believe that the person I'm giving money to and I'm trusting is of good moral standing, is a good human being. Life's too short. And even if it could be a several billion-dollar company, if someone doesn't have that integrity, it's just a non-starter for me. And then I want someone to be so maniacally focused, exciting, and mission-driven with regards to what they're building that, again, like building a company, it's almost like psychotic. Like, because you're gonna be going through some of the most painful experiences, pivots, roadblocks, speed bumps imaginable. And if you don't have the ability to run through walls when all the odds seem like they're stacked against you, like, then it's probably not something I want to be behind. And it's usually something that is a bigger reason why you're doing it. It's really a mission, and that you're gonna not accept failure as an answer.
Yeah, I'll just build on that. It's going to sound somewhat redundant, but I worked in the music business in the 90s and, worked directly with artists. And a lot of the times I'm using those parallels when talking to a founder. I mean, I knew, when Lauryn Hill and Wyclef, were in my office, that they were going to do what they were going to do. I knew that a young, four young girls from Houston, Texas, called Destiny's Child, led by this little mama who was back then, a boss, and her and her dad, Matthew Knowles and Beyonce, they were going to be great. It was just really obvious, and I was really fortunate in the music business to work on some really great projects. And I look for those same kinds of things in a founder. Do you have that ability to really do what you're telling me you're going to do? And I feel like I've been around a bit and been able to use my kind of intuitive practice and my kind of third eye, right, to really get like, does this person really believe in what they're selling? And can they really handle those moments? Just like, when I worked in the music business, working with artists, I was like, it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. Like, will they be able to weather those difficult moments? I think that's a lot of what goes into, what we look for. And secondly, we don't have a big institutional fund behind us, so we're investing and we're scrutinizing deals because, we're investing my personal capital. We have a syndicate fund. We have, kind of other family office that we partner with to do investments. So, we're really scrutinizing, should we deploy this capital to this founder? So assume they check off box number one, but are we going to be the best person on the cap table to be an active investor to be able to pour some gas and be able to help this thing grow. And so I think it's really important for us to also think about whether not just our check, but is our time going to be valued? Are you going to respect our time? Are you open to a relationship where we can give you feedback and give you our expertise? I think those are really important things for us as well.
Yeah, awesome. And for the next question, it comes from Kevin Crawford. He says, is innovation or product quality more important? And when you see a founder who knows they have something special, what is your advice to that founder? Kobie, we'll start with you.
I mean, I think both innovation and product quality, I mean, it's hard to say which one's more important. If you're not innovating, then part of what you probably need to ask yourself is like, what is different about what you're bringing to the table that is going to result in a customer wanting to buy your product over the competition. So for me, innovation is of incredible importance, and product quality to me, I think, is probably more of just it's just an assumption, like it's there. If the product is of not quality, isn't performed, then I feel like you're not even in the game. And I look for products also that are less iterative, but more like revolutionary. I want to look at a business where people are totally rethinking the way something is actually done. And to me, those are the ones that are the category defining businesses of tomorrow, where it's so out there, so wacky, so revolutionary that people hear the idea and they're like, that just sounds crazy to the point it's almost like stupid. I don't get it. Like, for instance, like virtual reality. And I was an early personal investor in Oculus. I was telling people about the fact that, yeah, like you're going to be able to put goggles on and feel like you're transported to another sort of like virtual immersive venue. And people were like, yeah, cool, Kobie. That sounds pretty interesting. But just like, yeah, shut up. I don't really care about the wacky other idea you're talking about now. But that was revolutionary. The fact that VR was going to be this new computing paradigm that will be mainstream. And obviously we have a ways to go, but a year and a half later, Facebook thought it was, I guess, pretty revolutionary and going to be mainstream. The fact they bought it for a couple $2 billion. And you can see if anyone hasn't used the Oculus Quest yet, it's revolutionary. It's amazing. So I think innovation is just, it's probably for me, probably the most important now. I'm just thinking about the question, and product quality is the standard.
What about you, James? What do you think about, is innovation or product quality important? And what would you tell a founder that, feels like they have something special? What would you tell them?
So I think innovation is, or the ability to, I've been playing around with this idea of, moving at the speed of culture, and being able to have something in the organization that allows you to continue to not just be innovative today, but innovative tomorrow. So I think innovation is, it's a thing that is embedded, for at least for the folks that we're looking at, it's embedded in their DNA, to maintain a sense of like moving with the times and innovation through the times. I think is really important. To Kobie's point too, product quality is kind of like a given almost. It's sort of what attracts us to things. We're definitely looking at product quality. I think for founders who know they have something special, I think, and we see so many of them. Sometimes founders who know they have something special forget some of the important fundamental pieces, because they're riding on the high of like, oh, I have something unique, but they don't lock in the fundamentals of having a solid team, having the pieces around them. I think storytelling is underrated. A lot of the work that we do is in the area of story, and I've met plenty of founders who have something special who are horrible in telling their story, telling their product story. And so I believe that in this new economy that we're in, and there's lots of vehicles, like I like that Kobie talked about, the fact that venture is only one vehicle, right? There's lots of other instruments to raise capital in. But storytelling never goes out of style. And I think whether you're, raising traditional venture or you're taking advantage of, Reg C or, our friends at Republic, it's going to be really important that you, whether you're sitting in front of a Kobie or you're sitting on a TV show or a Clubhouse or Shark Tank or whatever, that you really either surround yourself around the resources to perfect your narrative and perfect your story.
Yeah, I want to double click on that. I think a lot of people don't give the storytelling piece enough focus and time. They can have an amazing product, but when it's time for them to tell others about their product, especially when they're looking for something, I'll be like, whether it be capital or hiring someone or a partner, you have to have the story. You have to be able to tell the narrative and why this matters. And being able to also articulate the story in a way where you can show a trend line, and being able to show a trend line where part of the story includes your journey as an individual. Like, why were you as a founder called for this moment to build this company? And some founders will totally gloss over that part of it and they'll go straight into the product. And it's like, wait a minute, like, who are you as a founder? Why are you doing this? Like, let's just like start from like the beginning. And those narratives are incredibly powerful when you can tell them correctly. And then two, there's some like basics you can do, and whether you have the talent or you need to work with someone else to help bring that to you, around just like being able to present the story in the most polished manner. Marketing in this way things come across from like an appearance perspective, like these should be table stakes to the guards when you're putting narrative together. Like if you have a deck, it should look just totally amazing. Like it should look almost like a music video or a movie. Like you need to put in that effort to have it just look so beautiful, where when you present it for someone, the first impression an investor has, like, wow, like this looks legit. And also I could tell that the owner of this is shown enough respect to put the time into telling the narrative and the quality around it to the level where it's like, yeah, there's a lot of thought put into this. So now I'm going to lock in and listen to what they have to tell me. And some people just like, they're just sloppy with that. You'll see grammatical mistakes. You'll see formatting issues. You'll see like fonts, like with like Times New Roman or Courier, and not in a way where it's trying to be cheeky. It's because it's sloppy. And it's like, no, get your stuff together and don't like hurt yourself by just being lazy and not doing the easy stuff. The product is the hard stuff. The easy stuff is making it look beautiful, and you can find someone to do it for you. Like just go on and just find a creator that can just polish your stuff up in a way where it looks magnificent. But like, don't like do yourself a disservice by being lazy around the easy things around just presenting incredible narrative and just showing your narrative in a way that's compelling.
I just want to add one thing to that. And I always feel like I'm telling old touchdown stories when I talk about the music business, but this is really important. But when I used to market artists, there were three consumers that I thought about. One is the regular consumer, those of you that danced and partied to our records. But the other two customers, if you would, were the building. So I worked at Sony. I wanted to make sure the building understood what we were doing, and then the industry. And I spent just as much. I felt like when those three things were humming, we would have like something, really polished. And so, to Kobie's point, like you're telling the story to many different stakeholders. And it's really important to understand that, like, people always come to me and they go, oh, we're going to launch on this date. You're already launching once you're like out there talking to a Kobie or talking to other investors. Your marketing spend, if you would, or efforts actually start then. And so, I think it's really, really underrated and undervalued. And I think it's really important.
Right. Thank you. So we have another question from our audience from Paterne. Why do so many startups fail? And how would you advise entrepreneurs who did not make it big?
First, what is failing, right?
Right.
First of all, I think one has to redefine. I've tanked and crashed and as an entrepreneur, and have found that maybe I was too early in the market. I was thinking about, at one point, as Kobie was talking about VR, I was in Atlanta, I was doing VR advisory like many years ago, and I was doing live stream, thinking about the live stream space in 2009. I used to appear on CNN and had this crazy product idea, and so I don't look at that as failure. I looked at that as I was too early in the market and it just wasn't the right time. And a lot of those ideas and thinking that I had in that particular moment, are what are going into our business today. And I think that not making it big, I think you have to reimagine what that even means. How we even discuss making it big. I find that my failures have been some of my greatest teachers. And I think for it, folks, and in Silicon Valley adopts this. I think we as Black folks don't appreciate this as much because we conditionally and culturally, we look at it very differently. But in Silicon Valley, and Kobie can tell you this, like the cats who have failed are the folks that people bet on. If you look at Clubhouse, Paul, who created Clubhouse, he had a lot of failures. He was way too early on a couple of things. And, that gained him the ability to do the Water Cup tour on Sand Hill Road, in addition to his, being white male. But I think failure is something that we as a community need to start to embrace and actually leverage. And I think when I tell my story, I love talking about the things that did not work because it shows that I was actually in the market thinking about these things well before anybody else was. Just the timing was off. It wasn't the right time. And what I learned about social media in 2009, 2008, 2009, 2010 is powering a lot of the success that we're having now.
And I'd say that's incredibly well said, James. I think some of what also I see entrepreneurs fail at is they don't take a step back and realize what problems do I need to solve to get to the next milestone with my business, and what is that milestone? And many times they'll try to take a cookie cutter approach because they think like, oh, this is what all startups do. They raise a round of funding, they hire a bunch of people, and eventually customers come. And even though I have like several $100,000 a month in burn, I'll be able to raise that next round and grow to this level of revenue and then raise the next round. And then I realize if they don't have product market fit, they don't have actually a company that people care about, like, oh, wait a minute, I only have like 6 more months left of runway. I got to figure this out. And suddenly you realize more and more like, oh, like cash is dwindling down. Nobody wants to give me more money. And then you got to shut the thing down. Many companies, frankly, just run out of cash and they run out of time. And it's being very focused with regards to the resources you have, treating every dollar as precious, learning the most efficient manner with that dollar, and understand how do you get that next milestone that allows you to either raise more money or just capitalize and grow the business organically on your own. And some people just don't think that way. It's like, I'm just going to go do the stereotypical cookie cutter way that doing the VC game and starting a company actually is. Like, no, it's a journey. It's a different journey for everyone. And I would just recommend everyone just take a step back and realize, like, what is your journey? What is your path? How do you solve getting towards that next milestone in your journey? And don't try to follow the herd and the stereotypical way that people say it is to build a business.
Great. So while we have a couple of minutes here left, literally, I think we have 1 minute left. What are you both investing in right now? And, what kind of fits in with your investment criteria? Kobie, you can go first.
I mean, again, like I said before, I'm pretty broad in terms of categories I'm spending time in. So a real exciting enterprise software company that has highly talented, passionate, capable founders that I want to build something transformational that has the ability to scale to being a multi-billion-dollar outcome. Like that to me is why I get out of bed at night. It's why I just kind of go about the hustle. And that's what drives me. And the biggest things, again, I just want to find amazing people to work alongside with and go to war. And that's and also in that, and then if there's any sort of sector in particular that I would pull out is anything that has a community element to it. I'm super excited about anyone that's trying to disrupt LinkedIn, and Valence is one angle against that. I love to see someone create a community that's focusing on creators in a way where Gen Z and millennials flock to this, because this is where like the creator community comes to communicate with each other from a professional manner. And I feel like if you build that, because LinkedIn does not serve that community very well, that could be your vehicle to then, I think, disrupt LinkedIn for the next generation of professionals that are going on in their career. So that's probably one thesis I have, that if anyone's working on it, hit me up.
James, real quick.
Yeah, real quick. And we think about culture broadly, not just, Black culture. We think about culture as where people are paying attention. And so, we're interested in those businesses that, we've been spending a lot of time in places where we think there's some trends, especially coming out of COVID and pandemic. We're looking at something in the pet space right now because we believe that, we're seeing the data on, dog ownership by millennial bros. And so, yeah, we look at culture as our indicator, and we are thinking about places in which we can be an additive and help drive disruptive economies that maybe haven't been disrupted yet. So categories that haven't been disrupted yet. And media entertainment, is, if you got those things, we'll definitely look at those as well.
Awesome. Great discussion, powerful insights. I hope everyone feels as though they benefited from our conversation. Thank you both so much.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate it.